No, I've got no idea. So someone just attached this to me.
It's probably some university Dawah thing or something.
Must be
Okay,
school.
so it looks, it's a YouTube channel, isn't it? Okay. It looks like the evidence that we see does not support the claim being made, and therefore we should provisionally reject the claim. Yeah?
So what are you? So you're rejecting without looking at the religious texts, or just?
Yes, it's without. I mean, this line of argument is independent of the religious text. Of course, you should. I have read the Qur'an and the Bible and other religious texts. You know, so I'm not unfamiliar with what they say. I'm not going to claim to be a perfect expert on them. But it seems to me that the evidence, as it appears to us, is inconsistent with the claims being made, and therefore the rational thing to do is to not accept those claims.
Sure. So I obviously don't accept that there is that. The thing that I would say is that even my reading of the Quran, even the verses you mentioned about kill them where you find them is in wartime specifically talking about a specific group of people and not a general statement. So I don't find any bad bits, if you like. So when
you don't.
No, I don't find any bad bits.
Right. So the fact that
it's not about he doesn't. There isn't. That's the claim.
That's it. Yeah.
No, but that's the same thing.
That's
the same thing.
No,
that is the same thing.
That verse that you quoted.
Yeah.
If you really literally, yes, we could both agree it means something that is evil, right? However, there's a context to it. So if we don't understand the context, right, we can't say it's evil. We have to first understand the context and then say, oh yeah, it's still evil or not.
Okay. Right. You're saying it's not evil, okay, because of the context. Right. I'm saying it looks to me like it's evil, and I don't see that it gives the context that I think. I know what the argument is. It's only in the time of wartime when they were fighting us. I understand. I know the argument, right? Okay. My point is, you can't separate "it is" from "I think it is." Those two statements are the same, because "it is" your opinion, right? You have to assess: is this the word of God? Is God truthful? Is God? So those two statements are the same.
A quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said everyone agreed that it was evil, right? But to agree that something's evil, you need to have a specification for what evil is. Correct.
Yardstick.
Yes.
And what is your yardstick for?
That's my instincts. I have moral instincts.
Yeah, you're allowed that. But then
and my instinct, just like I have an instinct for beauty, I think my wife is beautiful.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's just
it's my instincts.
It's got no It's not based on it. It's just based on your.
It's a mixture of logic and instinct. So I have, because there are some things like if I have an okay, let me explain. Let me clarify. No, I'm not.
Oh,
He's trying to.
Oh, me.
Were you gonna say the Quran has told you what's
going off on the moral?
Hang on. If you want to do your own argument, you guys do that.
No.
Right, we're having a really good chat. I think we're having a good chat. Very respectable, all rational, no shouting. It's all good.
Okay.
All right. So to answer your question, it's a mix of instinct and logic, because you first have an instinct that it's wrong to harm other people, and then you use your logic saying, well, hang on, what's going to minimise harm? Maybe there are cases where you do have to harm someone. Maybe there are some justifiable wars. So you so you have to use a mixture of your logic and your instinct. So that's where I get my instinct of what's wrong and what's right. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, that helps answer part of it. But when you said I have this instinct that I don't like to see other people get harmed.
Correct. Yes.
Like, where does that
I don't know where that comes from. I have that instinct.
But then if you believe that,
I don't know where that instinct comes from. I think it probably evolved, but I don't know.
Oh, so
I don't know where that instinct came from. I have that instinct.
Okay.
And I have to follow it, because that's my instinct.
Can I just say?
Right? I don't know where it comes from.
Can I just say?
You see there is a contradiction here between the first verse that you mentioned about how good.
Speak up, brother.
Yeah, how good
Loud.
the Quran.
Sorry?
You mentioned about there is no compulsory in the religion.
Yes.
And you mentioned the other.
Yes. Yes, those verses look contradictory to me. Well, I don't see why the Quran wouldn't have contradictions in it.
Exactly.
I think it's written by human beings.
I understand you do that.
So there's nothing. What's the problem?
Say why this is a contradiction versus, and you claim that Quran there is no contradiction in it.
I don't claim there's no contradiction.
No, the Quran.
So that's fine. You claim it.
Yeah.
But I don't. So what's the problem?
You need to bring this argument to the Muslims, and why there is a verse saying that there is no compulsion in religion. There is another verse claiming to kill this believer or whatever you want.
And in fact, the unbelievers have to suffer, right? It does say unbelievers are going to hell.
What's unbelievers?
Yeah, so it's much more complicated.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, sure.
All right,
There's a
fine.
whole contextualization.
Okay. But to me, at least the way I look at it, that's compulsion. Because what do we mean by compulsion? It means I'm going to threaten you with violence if you don't do something. If I said you can vote Conservative or Labour, but if you vote Labour, I'm going to torture you, then there's compulsion there, right?
So you're talking about.
We're jumping to a
this
different
is another.
subject. Let's not go to different.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
In the English language,
Yes.
when an Englishman comes home to his wife and says, "Hey Peaches, I'm home," right? You and I as English speakers recognize what he means by that. It's a metaphorical term meaning you're beautiful, right? Now, if we translate that into a foreign language, and someone in that foreign language, whether Chinese, wherever, reads that, what is he going to think? Why is this man calling his wife a fruit?
Yeah.
Right? Now, it requires me and you, who know the English language, to help be a commentary and to help you understand what it was meant by in the original language.
Sure.
So once you translate a verse, kill the unbelievers where you see them, from a foreign language to the English language, you too also need the commentary on what was meant by that and the context in which it was meant. If you just read the literal meaning, you're going to get a different meaning to what was intended.
Okay. But the problem is that people can come up with different commentaries, right?
No, but the
So there's no
commentary has to be based on evidence. It can't be based on my opinion.
Okay. But of course,
he used. I can give you a claim here. He used the same word as you translated his belief, but in Arabic it's the same kuffar. In another verse, when he talk about the farmer and planting, يعجب الكفار نباته, like the farmer, but they meant by kuffar here, which is you translate it as disbeliever. The other verse, they are the farmer, people who.
But there are plenty of people that speak Arabic that take that view. That's what it means, right? So I don't think, obviously I'm a non-Arabic speaker, right? And I have to go with the understanding that I can get, okay? But the claim that, if only you knew the Arabic, you would see that it means this, doesn't look like a reasonable claim, because there are plenty of people that speak Arabic that take it to literally mean that, right? So I don't think that's very reasonable.
The same text he used the same word. That's true. Exactly the same word. But here it means something, and here it means another thing.
These are side topics. These are really side topics, I think.
Yeah, these are side topics.
I agree.
What's your name? Sorry.
Imran.
I think it would be good if Imran and I could focus on the issue at hand, because these are side topics and it's easy to get.
But I want to just address a couple of things.
Because I think we're having
just want to say a couple of things, because I think I understand why the brothers are sort of all joining in, because they're feeling a little bit buttons pushed.
Yes.
And I want to say that even if you don't have and I completely agree with the brother's position about language and context and commentary, but even if you don't have the commentary, the verse that you quoted about kill the unbelievers where you find them, if you start from what it talks about, it's actually talking about a specific treaty with a specific group of people that was broken, and therefore, and it's nothing to do with religion. So this is not so you can't
actually
compare.
It was polytheists, not
sure, the mushriks, the polytheists. And so this was related to that specific treaty, and the command to fight them was after that treaty was violated. And that's irrespective of religion, really. It's not it's not to do about whether they believe as Muslims or not. So, and the idea. So I don't find those two verses contradictory. But we would. I was just talking about humans. How the fact that in a history, most of us have been, as human beings, we've been theistic.
Yes, I agree with that.
And then we've become
not necessarily monotheistic.
Sure. Sure. So there's been a concept of something beyond human beings that has translated into sort of human being sort of experience. And there's been claims from many different societies, many different cultures, in many different times of people who've had communication and then afforded that.
Yes.
Now, this is a trend that's gone on, and it's sort of few people even today make the claim.
Yes.
But what this shows actually is that we need to account for this experience.
I agree.
So this is an observation.
I agree.
Of something.
I agree.
Now, so dismissing this concept, I think, out of hand that these texts are is problematic. I think we should assess them and look at them and see what we come out with. Sure. And one of the things that you said about the Qur'an specifically was you said that it was written by men. And it's a common, accusation made against the Prophet that this was something that compiled together.
Yeah.
But actually, I think historically, it goes against. There's history that goes against that idea. And the main reason is actually because the Quran itself asks people to write something like it. And forget the challenge itself, but just look at what happened historically. All it would require was for somebody of that time to say, well, here we go, this is something like it. And it would have ended the religion, completely finished it.
Would it?
It would have completely finished it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't accept that.
Sure, I understand that.
I don't accept that.
Sure, I understand.
People, first off, people don't change their religious beliefs in the face of contradictory evidence. We see that people that join doomsday cults, and they predict the end of the world, they give it a certain date. Yeah? And when that date happens and the world doesn't end, do you know what happens?
They carry on.
They don't say, I was wrong. My belief in my cult figure is ended. They come up with some rationalization why they were right all along. Yeah? So I just don't agree that claim is valid, because people don't change their beliefs based off of conflicting evidence.
So then
their belief systems are much more complicated.
So what that answer that you've given assumes is that there is evidence of people producing something similar.
I'm saying is if there was, it wouldn't change their beliefs. So I don't believe that the religion would end if someone came up with that.
So in the time when Islam was sort of literally in its fruition, there were handfuls of people who were receiving these words from the Prophet that they recognised as being something different from their usual sort of way of speaking and doing poetry, etc. At that time, when I think that there would have been, because we have examples of people at that time walking away from the religion, we have examples of that. So I agree with you. As a group, most people tend to sort of blindly follow, but actually there are many that don't.
Sure.
And I have friends who are examples of that, sort of coming from atheistic backgrounds or religious backgrounds and changing religions or leaving religions.
Yeah, people go both ways.
Both ways, yeah. So I think that historically, because that rather than try to meet this challenge, the people actually fought the Prophet. They drove him out of where he was, and they went on to have many battles. I think historically, what that shows is that what he had wasn't something that could easily be reproduced. That's my perspective.
That's fine. Something not easily reproduced is fine.
Sure.
He could have been a brilliant poet, speaker. None of that means that it was given those texts by a being that's so powerful or righteous. He could have been given it by an alien, for all I know. It doesn't follow that the fact that it was somewhat unique doesn't mean that it's from a God that has all those properties.
So absolutely. So I agree what you're saying, but what I would say is that the fact that the Quran was something that wasn't easily reproduced by the people at the time. So I'll just use that phraseology just to make life easy. And the people fought the Prophet rather than to try and meet this challenge, they fought against him. And what this shows actually, they were unable to meet that challenge for me when I'm looking at this. And the fact that this text itself makes certain claims for itself. One of the claims it makes is about the Prophet, peace be upon him anyway. It says that he was illiterate, which is actually something that's historically sort of recorded and valid as far as we're aware.
I mean, I've tried to look into that. I can't say I'm an expert on this, but I haven't found that there's the historical validation of that claim that Muhammad was illiterate is very strong. I mean, tell me what you think the best evidence is that claim is true, because from the reading I've done, I've not seen anything particularly convincing.
So how would you approach that sort of question?
I would look for historical biographies of him done by clearly non-biased sources, and I don't see that. Go ahead. You want to say something?
Can I just weigh in?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, 6:30 is when I have to go.
Okay. Same over here.
I'll just wrap this up.
Right.
You seem a little bit similar. Yeah, but anyway, so the Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet. For example, if all of you guys know me, and I tell you that I'm the Prophet, and I tell you that, for example, you clearly know that I know how to write. You know how to write.
That was the point I was going to make.
Yeah. Would you risk your life in all these battles where you're the underdogs? Would you actually risk your physical life and everything based on that whimsy claim?
A claim that you know is false.
I think you could claim. I totally believe that you could risk your life for something that you know to be false. I don't think it's unlikely at all. You might believe if you believe that it's going to lead to a better world, you will certainly risk your life for a lie. I don't see why you wouldn't. That's all it requires. All it requires is some ideological motivation to fight for that cause. You might fight for that cause because they're paying you. You might fight for the cause because you think that this person is an inspiration, or you might fight for the cause because you think it will lead to a better world. And you'll quite happily fight for a lie if you think. Like people do it all the time. Proper people, ideologies like Nazism and communism, they've done things they know are lies, but they believe in their ideology and they fight. They risk their lives for their ideology. So I don't see why that's an argument.
And en masse as well. But like you said,
most of the people fought for Muhammad probably didn't know him personally. Probably only had a small circle of
He said earlier, Phil, is it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Phil said earlier that you would need it from non-biased. But I would humbly claim no one's non-biased. Yeah. Like for example, a Christian is not going to be non-biased.
Well, that's the difficulty in believing the claim.
I'm not going to lie to you, a Muslim.
No, but there are, okay.
But atheist is not going to be non-biased. So who's going to be non-biased? Because look, if
If, for example, you can. Let me explain, right? There are certain claims, right, that are accepted in a conflict by both sides. Okay, so for example, take World War II. Okay, both sides of World War II, the Allies and the Axis, accept the claim that the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. Where they would disagree is whether it was justifiable, but they both agree that Pearl Harbor was bombed. Right? So if you have a scenario like that, where multiple sides in a conflict agree on certain facts, then that gives you a validation that those facts are likely to be true. So what you would want to see is contemporary people who were not followers of Muhammad, maybe his opponents, who agreed with that claim, and I haven't seen that. I mean, if you know of that, I'd be happy to read it and examine it. From what I've read, I've not seen that.
Then we have
sorry, go on. Yeah, so we have historical. So when I say when you're assessing any sort of historical events, particularly about a civilization, and you got to remember that Arabia was in between the Romans and the Persians, and didn't really have a written history or any sort of written system as such that was sort of books.
Well, they had writing.
They had writing, but they didn't have.
I'm not quite sure what you mean. They have no writing.
They didn't record their history as such. And actually that's something that happened even after the Prophet's time, when actually the Qur'an came, and that was something of a driver of writing and recording, and books really became proliferant after that. So when you're assessing history, actually what we do is we go to those people and we see what they say. This is what we do. And then you look for, if you're then going to change, revise that understanding of what these people were like from their own history, you look for evidence that contradicts this from other sources. So we have in the Muslim recorded history, which you could say is biased, but we have recording of companions who were doing the writing for the Prophet because he couldn't do it. We have for example, there was a treaty being written, and between a disbelieving group and the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the person who was writing the treaty put down, this is the treaty between the Prophet, the Messenger of God, and and the person objected and said, well, actually I don't believe that this person is a prophet of God, so I'm not going to agree to this treaty. So we have recording of the Prophet.
Do we have recordings by the opposing side?
So the person who then later became Muslim affirms the story, but at the time he wasn't.
Later became a Muslim.
Later became Muslim.
So that's not really an unbiased source.
No, I'm not saying unbiased source.
Do we have an unbiased source?
So what I'm saying is that when you do history, you don't go to. First, you look at the people's history that they record for themselves.
Sure.
And then then what you do is, if you want to revise your theory, if you want to say actually, however these people that have recorded their own history isn't correct, because we have other evidence that suggests, then you would revise your theory.
No, but we have to treat claims skeptically. Otherwise, we fall for anything.
But we don't.
Okay? And it seems to me that this claim is not being treated as skeptically as it should be.
The
claim is that the Prophet was illiterate.
You don't believe the Prophet was illiterate?
I'm not saying I don't believe it. Well, I'm saying I haven't seen sufficiently unbiased sources to verify that claim.
So you don't know?
So I don't accept it. I'm not saying it's false. It might be true, right? But I don't accept it as true.
So you basically you don't accept anything unless you've what? Seen it yourself? What?
No, of course not. I accept it based off. I accept claims based on the proportion of the evidence for it.
Do you have any evidence that says he wasn't illiterate?
No.
So why would you oppose that?
But because you don't accept things. You don't. Okay. I don't have any evidence that there are no aliens on Mars. But I don't accept. If someone here said there are aliens on Mars,
right,
I would not accept that claim, even though it might be true.
Right.
Right. Even though, and I don't have any contrary evidence that it's false.
Right.
Unless you can bring the evidence to the table, I'm not going to accept.
So if
that
someone
claim.
makes a claim there's aliens on Mars, would you say there's not aliens on Mars?
No, I don't make that claim.
You say you don't believe it.
I say yes. I don't accept the claim to be true.
You don't believe it. That's the same thing.
Okay, fine.
Yeah,
fine.
Because you have no evidence.
But it's not the same as me saying it's false.
No, I agree.
Okay.
So what you're saying is this: so someone comes and claims there's aliens onArs.
Yeah.
You've got no authority to say there is no aliens on Mars unless you can prove there's no aliens on Mars.
Correct.
All you can say is I don't believe it. Yeah.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah. So when the Muslim comes and says that we believe the Prophet Muhammad was illiterate due to what we have, you have to question why you don't believe that.
Yeah, because I haven't. I told you why.
No. Why don't you believe that? Why don't you believe their testimony?
I told you already.
Why?
Because they're not unbiased sources.
No. But why? So what?
Because that's what you want in history.
So when this is what I'm saying to you.
If you don't
that
have
approach to history is
exactly what you explained to you. If you have a contrary to it, you're right. So if, for example, you have Islamic sources saying Muhammad was illiterate, and then you have pagan sources saying no, he was writing books. He was a poet. Yeah. We're not. Listen to me. What you're saying is someone's come with a claim that he was illiterate, and here's why we're saying he's illiterate. Now, do you understand what a belief is? Yeah, a belief is the acceptance of something to be true with or without evidence. Okay, this is what a belief is. All right. So we believe Muhammad was illiterate, and the reason we believe it is this, and this.
Yeah.
You have to prove that even if it's biased, even if it's written by the people who wrote the history because they were there. Listen, they were there. Why are you rejecting that just because it goes against you?
No, it's not just because it goes against me. You can't accept any claim made by people just because they were there.
Okay.
People lie, people make mistakes.
And people tell the truth.
Yes.
Right.
So you don't know a priori which one of those three is the case.
No, but the question.
Right?
Yeah, but
so,
question.
So you want to try and assess which one of those is true. Is it?
So how would you do that?
How do you do that?
Yeah.
If you want to know whether a claim is true in history, you look for multiple sources.
Right.
And you look to see, are there clear biases on the sources?
Right. No.
And if there are clear biases on the sources, you raise your level of skepticism.
Right. So the question would be this: who would have access to the knowledge if Muhammad was illiterate or not? Who would have that access? Who would know that?
Well, the people around him.
Right. Would people in Persia know it?
I don't know. Depends what interactions they had.
Well, if they never met him, would they?
If they hadn't met him, they wouldn't know.
And would people in Rome know it? In Egypt? Right.
No, of course.
So the people you would expect to tell you about how he was are the people around him.
Right, but they're also the people.
But what you're trying to say is they lied.
No, I'm not saying they lied. They could be mistaken. It could be a legend made up later.
Right.
I'm not saying the people around him.
Or they told the truth.
That's a possibility as well.
Right. Now the question is.
Let me address this point. There's no assessment that they necessarily lie. The people come to false beliefs by all kinds of manners.
Right.
It could be legends that developed over time. It could be mistakes. It could be exaggerations. It could be mistranslations. It could be an outright lie. Right. Or it could be the truth.
Right.
Okay. Now, if we only have the biased sources, the ones that you would expect to try and paint someone.
Biased?
Okay, because in history, if you have a claim from someone who's clearly biased, then you have to treat that claim with more skepticism than someone that doesn't have a clear bias.
But everyone's biased, though.
No. But as I said, sometimes the bias doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for example, if in the case of World War II, right, if both sides agree to certain things,
but you're not presenting. No. Because you presented Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
And the Allies believe this and the Axis believe this. Okay. But you're not doing the same with this. You're not bringing us an alternative view.
Oh yeah, true.
No. Okay.
Didn't nobody write against?
Didn't you just tell me that writing wasn't very active in that period of time?
Right.
Okay. So therefore, it's very difficult. No, the problem is it's very difficult to test this claim whether it's really true.
Right.
I'm not saying I've got lots of evidence that it's false.
Right.
I'm not saying that.
Right.
So you're saying, well, bring me some evidence that it's false.
No.
And I don't have any.
No.
But I'm saying is that it would be it's hard to assess whether the claim is really true. Because as you said, there wasn't a lot of writing going on at this
Can I ask you a quick
right?
question? Earlier when you were talking about, for example, aliens being on Mars or something like that, for example, and you said if someone made that claim, you wouldn't. But what I would say the difference between that and this claim is, for example, great claims, like something so crazy, of course you're not going to accept by someone just saying it. But the Prophet, when most people back then were illiterate, being illiterate, that's not a crazy claim. So what you
but there were obviously some people were illiterate because it got written down, right?
For example, what he did, for example, is like if he told me, if I didn't know this area and he said Edge Road's that way, that's not like a massive claim. That wouldn't be a claim that would really shake everything, right?
Of course.
But what he did, instead of doing that, he was.
No, but the claim is. Let's get down to the bottom line of this. Let me get to the bottom line of this.
It's a basic claim. It wasn't
No, fine. But it's not, because what you're saying is that a literary masterpiece was written by an illiterate person.
So that's not what we're saying, actually.
No, Phil, no. We're not saying that at all. What we...
That's a subtle point.
Sorry, Imran. Sorry, hang on. Sorry. Okay. Can I just... Me and Imran were having this chat. What was the claim you... Maybe I misunderstood the claim you... So why don't you repeat the claim and we go from there?
I said that you said that the Prophet Muhammad or a group of people wrote the Quran.
That's your claim.
That's how you... And I said I didn't agree with that. And I said I was giving different reasons for that.
Right.
Now, amongst the reasons was that the Prophet was illiterate. And then we went into the question of history and how we do history. So... In talk about early sources, we have, first century Qurans that contain the statement that this was, if you were one who could write with your hand, then the people would not have believed. This is sort of a quote from the Quran itself. And when the Quran was in its fruition, literally, there were handfuls of Muslims only. And I know that you said that people believe things blindly, but when the people who were coming to believe in this gentleman, in a time when he was saying things against their culture, their belief systems, were people who were looking for reasons to sort of say this is a false person, don't believe in him. Partly because of sort of clan rivalries and everything else. There were people who said, we did this and that clan did this, and now they're saying they've got a prophet. Why can't we say the same? These were the sorts of thought processes going on. No one refuted the fact that he was illiterate, or said actually,
well,
no, you're not illiterate.
You don't know that no one refuted that. That's a claim you've made. There could have been plenty of people refuting that, and
you're arguing from silence.
No, I'm saying you're arguing.
Arguing from silence.
Sure. I would say that
it is.
Maybe I could finish my sentence. Yeah? You're saying you're making a claim that we can't really check, and so we don't know that it's true.
So I can... There's a response to that.
Okay.
So I agree that if just because something isn't said doesn't prove that it didn't happen, unless you expect it to have been mentioned if it didn't happen. And what I mean by that is we have many recordings of what happened at the time of the Prophet that are what we would call embarrassing or negative things that don't necessarily serve a purpose but have been recorded anyway. So an example would be we have a recording of a manuscript of the Quran or a page of the Quran being eaten by a goat, for example. Has no real significance overall because the Quran was a memorized text, but it's recorded. So we have not a lot of unquoting sort of inverted commas banality recorded, and then we have extensive life stories of the Prophet, peace upon him, what happened to him also recorded, and they record all the things that happened, the accusations that were made against him, and the Quran also reiterates some of these, that it claims that this person was doing these sorts of things. None of those, amongst those claims, does it claim that this was someone actually who was lying, who was a writer who was lying that he couldn't write. So it's a claim. It was something that we expect to find, but we don't find it.
Here's the point. They may have some conception of the story they want to tell. Okay. I mean, I'm not saying this is what happened. I don't know. Right. It's certainly conceivable, right, that they had this conception of this image that they wanted to portray, and it suited them. Right? And other things, embarrassing things, they didn't find them to be a serious problem. Otherwise, they would have cut them out. They say, we can allow this, but we can't allow this. That's certainly more conceivable than an all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving, not all-loving, although the 99 properties of God gave someone a supernatural book. So if you ask the probability of those two explanations, to me, the human one is a much more reasonable one. We've only got 15 minutes left. Sure. So why don't we do one of these two things? The very first thing that you said was, I believe there's a creator. So why don't we do, in our last 15 minutes, maybe we go 2 minutes each or something, just give me the best reason you think there is for believing that there is a creator to the universe.
Okay, so that's a complicated question, but I'll do my best in the short time.
I just think we've only got 15 minutes left. Let's move.
So I believe that the universe, you're the science guy, I'm not really as a science as you, but evidence points towards the fact that the universe, if you go back in time, was smaller than it is now, so it's contracting back over time. And this goes to some point that where we lose sort of our current understanding of physics, which is pre-Planck time.
Yes, sure.
And I believe that because we look at the universe now and it's expanding at a faster and faster rate, that it's unlikely that it's going to be a universe that collapses. So it's going to be going on for that. And if we look up now, we can see stars.
Yes, we can.
That means that we haven't been expanding forever, because otherwise the light wouldn't come to our eyes, because it would be, the acceleration would also mean that we're at a stage where the light wouldn't